All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday to everyone out there. We got February 2nd and a big NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. We'll talk about the games. I'll give you my lean on the spread, give you my lean on the total, give you any leans that we like in the game like player props or anything of that nature. But as always, all of my final plays, if you do want to fade my picks and do the opposite, those plays are going to live in the pinned comment, pinned to the top of this comment section. So make sure to check that out. Last night was not our best performance there. I will say that Lakers-Celtics game and even the Derek White over we took, had I known LeBron and Anthony Davis would not be playing, probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger, but, hand up, that's on me. We got to wait out injury reports in this day and age on the NBA. The Jazz pick, I kind of stand behind, but guess what? They end up flopping and losing there too. So we follow up a really great 8-2 night 2 nights ago, right? With a 0-3 night last night, but hopefully we can start the weekend off right, have a nice winning night tonight. I will say the vibe starts to change here when we look at the ride of the day. Shout out to Quan. He had Donovan Mitchell on the second leg of a back-to-back here, less than 39.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Donovan Mitchell falls below that only by like 3 or 4, so it was a little bit of a sweat, but it cashes, and Quan is killing it right now. He's on a 2-game win streak. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me an absolute banger of a pick, and I'm jumping on board with one person's pick and giving you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Also shouting you out over on Twitter/X at EvGuyBoston if you guys do want to follow me there. But yeah, if you win, we continue to ride with you. So looking forward to seeing what Quan pulls out today, and yeah, we'll jump on board and ride with them again. I will say, moving forward for the next, I want to say 2 videos, maybe just one video, they will look a little bit different, maybe even a car video. The OGs know what I'm talking about. We are going to be traveling up north for the weekend, so we won't have the normal setup. It might just be tomorrow's video. We might be good to go for Sunday, but FYI, we kind of have a makeshift video tomorrow, probably a little bit small, shorter, and everything like that. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and jump into today's games. Like I said, we got a decent amount of them. Very excited. This is a nice Friday slate. We're starting it off with the Detroit Pistons hosting the LA Clippers. Now, Detroit, obviously a bad team, and the Clippers, obviously a good team. Detroit in their last 10 games here, they've lost 7 of them. Clippers have won 8 of their last 10 games. They've been kind of battle-tested, too. Wins against Boston, wins against OKC, tight game against Minnesota. Like, this Clippers team is legit. And I even said, a month and a half ago, that, watch out, this Clippers team is a dark horse. The minute they're healthy and jive, they're going to be good. Maybe it was 2 months ago. And now look at them. Honestly, one of the best teams in the league, the way they're playing. That being said, I don't know if I can fully back 11.5 points tonight. Now, you're not going to catch me taking the points with the Pistons because they're really just not that trustworthy to me, even though they've covered. And so, how I mentioned Pistons have only won 3 games out of their last 10. They're 8-2 against the spread, so they're playing really well. It's because they're getting these big numbers, which kind of keeps me off of the Clippers, right? But I'm not going to put my trust and my hard-earned dough on the Pistons. But I guess from a slight lean perspective, yeah, I don't really want to lay the points with the Clippers, so I'm going to lean towards Detroit. But like I said, I feel like I'm talking in circles here. I doubt that becomes a final play. Now, the total sitting at 237. If the Pistons keep this remotely a game, I do think that this ends up going up and over. The Pistons' last 10 games here, top 10 team in terms of pace. Now, the Clippers, yes, not very fast. The defense has been playing well, so maybe that hinders them a little bit. But like I said, I'm kind of going off the game script idea that the Pistons make somewhat of a game of this. Not necessarily challenge it and potentially win. Maybe they do, but I'm saying if they keep this to 6 or 7 points throughout the game, I do think that the tempo could get up and over. And kind of correlated to that over, a player prop that I like is going to be Jaden Ivey over 3.5 assists. He's played the Clippers twice in his career. He's hit that in both of his games. On the season, you look at this and you're like, all right, well, he's only hit it in 49% of his games, 21 out of 43, right? But he's hit it in 8 of his last 10. He's hit it in 15 of his last 20. And he's averaging just under 7 potential assists per game. So for him to get 4, I don't necessarily hate it. So Jaden Ivey over 3.5 assists is probably going to be the player prop that I consider in this spot. All right, next up, we got Washington taking on Miami. This isn't my favorite spot in the entire slate here. I do lean towards Miami, though they had been really struggling. They looked good against the Kings. Like, they kind of won that one. I don't want to say easily because, you know, at different points of that game, it was a close game, but pretty much from box to wire, like, they were the team that looked like they were winning that. And I know that because we had Kings money line that night, right? And it was like the Kings never seemed like they were really ready to get up and over the top. In Washington, obviously a team that has been struggling. They just lost by, I think it was like 16 or 17 to the Clippers, which again is understandable, but you're not going to catch me trusting this Washington team. They've covered just 31% of games at home this season. And it's not like Miami's been a great against the spread team. 48% of games they've covered on the road, but they are just a better team, I think, overall. Maybe they get some, you know, a little juice because Bam Adebayo's an all-star. Who knows? Give me Miami here minus the points, but again, it's not my favorite spot. I also don't mind taking a peek at this under. Yes, I'll admit it could be crazy to be looking at an under for the Wizards, but what if I told you that the Wizards have cashed 8 unders of their last 10? They're playing with crazy pace. I get it, but their offense has just not been there. And to be honest, the pace of play is one thing, but you can run up and down the court as fast as you want, score as many points per 100 possessions. I get it, but you could have a million possessions. If you're not capitalizing on those possessions, it really isn't something that I'm all afraid of. And this is a team that's just middle of the pack when it comes to field goal percentage. And Miami's a decently defensive team, right? Though they haven't shown it that much this year, they're still a top 10 defense in terms of points allowed. In their last 5 games here, they've struggled a little bit, have some high scoring games, but what better team to play against, right? To say, okay, let's get the defense back on track. Like, they went from scoring, holding opponents like 105, 95, 110 at most, to all of a sudden it's like 143, 125, 118. They kind of returned back to form against the Kings, 106. So I'm hoping Miami's pace and defensive awareness, you know what I mean? Like, defensive priority kind of rings true here, and we can cash an under. But that is, if this was in the 230s, I'd love the under. 228, late 220s, makes it a little bit dicey, but I'll still lean towards the under. And no major player props in this spot here. I kind of want to target potential corner 3 shooters here for the Wizards, but none of them really jump off the page. Bilal Coulibaly, maybe Corey, like, no one really jumps off the page here. Jordan Poole is questionable. I probably should mention that. So, if we can have someone slide into his role there and kind of take some of those shots, that could be a good spot. But it's not really much of a player prop game in my brain, so it is what it is. All right, like I said, it is Friday, and Sleeper has dropped a nice little Friday treat for new users. Pascal Siakam, they've dropped his points line down to 0.5. Yeah, I think he's going to score 1 bucket. Just get to the foul line, hit 1 of 2. Take advantage of this promo, guys. The link is in the pinned comment for Sleeper. You get that deposit match as well, which is absolutely killer. Up to $500, which is absurd. You don't have to put in 500. You could put in 50 if you want. They'll match it, give you an additional 50, and you'll get a new playable balance of $100. Go check it out, and you get this Pascal Siakam square. And don't know if I'm supposed to leak these things, but they got some nice Super Bowl squares coming as well. Working with them, I kind of see the creative and whatnot prior to, and you know what? They have a Patrick Mahomes free square as well right now, and then I think there's some Super Bowl squares. No details, but I think there's some nice Super Bowl squares coming out because Sleeper's always hooking it up with the discount. So make sure to go check it out. If you guys don't know what Sleeper is, it's a DFS pick'em app. You pick 2 to 8 player props, put them in a slip. The more you win, the more you get paid out. And I love Sleeper because they have the unique payout structure. They don't follow the fixed 2 for 2 is 3 times structure like all the other apps out there. So go check it out. Link in the pinned comment, or just download Sleeper. Use code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON. Spelling bee champ, you know it. Use that, you get 100% of your first deposit matched and this Pascal Siakam square. Let's go ahead and get back to the slate. All right, we got the Hawks taking on the Suns here. Hawks at home. They're getting 4 points total, sitting at 247.5. I've already seen this move to 248.5, and I'll jump right out and say I like the over in this spot. It is a high number. That could be the thing that keeps it from being a final play, but you have the Hawks, who are the second fastest team in terms of pace in the last 10 games, going up against the Suns, who are just outside at 11, outside the top 10 at 11 in terms of pace here. So, with an average pace in this game based on those 2 rankings, you're looking at the 6th fastest game you could comprise based on pace in the NBA. So yeah, I'll lean towards the over here. It sucks that it is such a high number, but Hawks have just been absolutely terrorizing overs lately. 4 straight, and they've all been really high lines. 235, which is the lowest here. 245.5, 239.5, 248, and they've been crushing it. So yeah, Hawks playing with some serious pace. I'll lean towards the over. In terms of spread pick, like, It's weird because I feel like we've made money with the Suns. They've burned us a couple times. I don't know where I come out on trusting them, but this Hawks team, I think I got to take the points with at home. Not because they're a good home team, right? Like when they're at home, they've covered just 21.7% of their games this year. Which is absolutely terrible. But Phoenix on the road is just a 50-50 team against the spread. And, you know, against the spread this year, neither one of these teams is all that great. So I'm going to take the home team. I do think Trae Young, potential snub of an all-star, right? He's averaged a double-double 2 years in a row and not been an all-star. So maybe he comes out firing, which helps, obviously, the Hawks, but also potential Trae Young. I don't mind looking at his over 25.5 points. You can also get 24.5 from -135, which is still a little bit better. I don't mind that over on DraftKings right now. But he's hit the over here in 6 of his last 10. His last 3 games, he's gone for 30, 30, 26. Last time he played the Suns, it was last year, but he dropped 36 points on them, shooting 56 from the field, 56% on 18 attempts here. So yeah, I don't mind Trae Young in this spot, especially if he is like kind of salty about that, obviously, you know, not being an all-star. I also like his over 2.5 3-pointers made. This is a guy that, you know, any point in the year they could set his line at 3.5, not because he's a great shooter, right? But because he will shoot so many. But this year he's kind of toned it down a little bit. His percentage is still, man, like people think Trae Young is a good shooter. He's a volume shooter. He's a mid-30s% shooter, right? 36% this year, but I do think that this is going to be a spot where he has the ability to take a decent amount of attempts. So looking at the shot chart and whatnot, Phoenix not that great with above the break threes. Trae Young obviously leads the Hawks in above the break threes, so I'll lean towards over 2.5 threes from him as well. And I also have a couple more player props that I like in this game. Now, 3 different plays, all one player, so we do have like 5 potential plays in this game, but they're two players, right? I'm looking at Bradley Beal. First, I like his over 3.5 rebounds. He's hit this in 9 of his last 10 games. Now he's landed at 4 in 5 of those games, so don't get carried away thinking he's crushing this line. But he has hit the over here, and he's averaging 9 rebound chances in his last 7 games. And I really just don't mind the spot. Now, the Hawks aren't the best matchup for him there. It's not like they give up a bunch of rebounds to the shooting guard position, but nonetheless, the trend may speak for itself there. I also like his assist line, which is sitting at 4.5 right now. He's hit that in 8 of his last 10 games. He's also hit, and he's landed on 5 times, so keep that in mind that he's just barely getting by with these numbers. This is a guy that's also averaging plenty of potential assists, over 7 potential assists per game. Not the ratio that I like I like the rebounds a lot more, but still, you know, not terrible. And then I like those stats combined, over 8.5 rebounds plus assists for him. So yeah, maybe, you know, there's a lot of plays that I don't mind in this game. We'll see if those come to fruition. It could be a same game parlay type of a game as well, so keep an eye on the pinned comment. We might post that as a TikTok or short. So yeah, keep an eye on that. All right, next up, we're looking at what should be a good game because we have finally the Halliburton and Sabonis matchup and that trade that went down, right? So a couple years ago. But we got the Pacers taking on the Kings here. Right now, Pacers getting 3 points at home. They are in a back-to-back, mind you. And in terms of total, we're looking at 248.5. We'll start with the spread here. Give me the Kings. I know they let us down against the Heat, but they were playing good basketball before that. And this is like middle of the road trip. They have a look-ahead game tomorrow against Chicago. But if you're looking at, you know, this Kings-Pacers game with all of the narratives, I guess, versus them playing Chicago, I think that this is the game that they're going to end up kind of eyeing on and caring about. And it's a good spot for them. This is an Indiana team, like I said, on a back-to-back, right? They lost against the Knicks last night, 109-105, played fine. But they've covered just 22.2% of games in their on the season when they are on back-to-backs. And then Sacramento, when they have a rest advantage, 69.2% cover rate. So this is a team that when they have the rest advantage over another team, they're already, you know, kind of get an elevation, right? And then you have Indiana, who really struggles this year on back-to-backs, drops even more. Give me the Kings here minus the points. If you guys are fading that and you guys want to look at the Pacers, I get it because the Kings really have not been the most trustworthy, I guess, team. But it's funny because you look at the bigger the sample size is for the Kings, the better they look. Like you could say the Kings just, I can't trust them anymore. 14-9-1 against the spread on the road this year, right? It's like, and then just even against the spread overall, they're over 50%, like covering more games than they're not. So it is funny because I'm right there with you. Like this Kings team is not trustworthy. Maybe it's because they lost to that Charlotte team when they were 16.5-point favorites. favorites, and now it's kind of like they got a bad rap for that. But nonetheless, I'm trusting them tonight. Give me the Kings minus the points. In terms of player prop, actually, we could talk about the total here. I don't mind taking a peek at the under. It's a high number. These again are teams that, you know, this back-to-back and rest advantage thing is something that I'm focusing on. If that isn't what ends up making the difference, then this may blow up in our face. But Indiana, 44% cover rate to the over, or hit rate to the over this season. So 56% of their games when they are on back-to-backs hit the under, which is huge because it's an Indiana team that plays with a lot of pace, right? Top 10 team in the last 10. And Sacramento, they've hit the under in 57% of games when it comes to them having rest advantage. So again, I'm putting a lot of eggs in the rest advantage versus back-to-back basket, but I think that that's the biggest discrepancy in this game. When they last played, which was mid-January, they didn't have Halliburton on the Pacers side of things. The Pacers still won the basketball game, so this could be a revenge spot for Sabonis, Fox, company, and the Kings, right? So I'll lean towards the under as well as the Kings. Now, player props, I like Sabonis to score again. Last time they played, he had 21 points. This is a Pacers team that really struggles when it comes to preventing points in the paint, aka Sabonis is doing. And then I don't mind taking a peek at Buddy Hield's over in threes or over in points, but we have no Pacers props at the time of recording right now. But that is a really big weakness for Sacramento. A pretty defensively sound team, but one of the worst teams at covering the above the break three in the last 10 games. So Hield, definitely the guy you want to look for on the Indiana side of things if you want a good matchup for that defensive weakness. All right, next up, we have Houston taking on the Raptors here. There's a lot of injuries on the Raptors side of things. I still just can't seem to trust Houston with those points, though. Sengun is questionable as well, so you know what? Screw it. We'll sound the psycho alert alarm. Give me the Raptors plus the points. It's more or less I'm fading Houston minus the points, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think this is going to be one that we make a final play just because I just can't seem to get behind the Raptors. They have won outright 2 straight games as 6.5-point dogs. They beat Atlanta by 1, and then they really beat Chicago, not handily, but pretty damn, you know, easily, I guess, when you look at it, 118 to 107. Houston has just been up and down here. Like, again, it's really coming down to, I don't want to lay the points with Houston. They haven't covered a spread as favorites in a while here. Like, if you look at this game in their last 10, Houston has only covered 5.5 points in any of their last 10 games 2 times. Toronto has only done it 3 times, but they've done it 2 straight. So, like, I'm splitting hairs here, but it's just going to come down to not trusting Houston. But like I said, I'm not trying to tell you guys I'm the most confident. This is the most confident spot or anything like that. Total-wise, this is sitting at 229. I'm going to look at the under here as well. This is a Toronto team that has been playing slow. Pace-wise, they're middle of the pack, so I shouldn't say slow, but not scoring a boatload of points. You could make the argument that their last couple games, which is kind of what I'm basing their success on, right? They've been scoring a lot of points, so fine. Take it with a grain of salt, and the injuries there could impact it as well with Quickly, Barrett, and Pirtle's still out, I believe, but Quickly and Barrett. But nonetheless, I guess what I'm saying is I like the under here. I think that both these teams can play slow. This is a team in which I think we could still trust Houston to kind of do their defensive thing at home, even though I said I didn't like what I've seen so far. But 229 just seems a little bit too high for me, so I'll lean towards the under as well. I probably like the under more than a spread in this spot. And then from a player prop perspective, nothing jumps off the page to me in this game. If you couldn't tell, not my favorite game of the slate. So before we get to some of my favorite games on the slate, I guess, guys, I want to talk to you about the merch brand we have here on the channel. I'm rocking the Vice hoodie right now, but it is Fade Me. If you want to support what we're doing here and get some great merch at the same time, head over to fademe.store. I'll also put a link in the pinned comment. I love this parlays all day moon hoodie. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff on the store right now. This is one of our newer launches, this bounce back hoodie. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt too, but pretty damn cool, because we all know when you have a bad gambling night or a bad betting night, there's always a chance for a bounce back. But again, guys, there's plenty of stuff over on the store, and if you do want to support what we're doing here and get some great fire merch at a great price, head over to fademe.store. Link will be in the pinned comment as well. Support what we're doing here. Join the movement. The quality's great. I'm loving the product that we're producing, so go check it out. Fademe.store. All right, I lied. This isn't one of my favorite games. But nonetheless, we have Memphis taking on Golden State here. Golden State laying 8 points on the road, which obviously is a pretty high number for a team that has kind of struggled as of late. When they are on the road, though, weirdly enough, they've covered 60% of games this season, so good for them, I guess. Sure, give me Golden State minus the points because I'm not gonna put my money on Memphis here. They've lost 3 straight games now. They've covered like a million straight games, so this is going to be one where I'm leaning Golden State, but probably not making it a final play. They did cover, I believe. I think they covered against Golden State last time they played. Yeah, they beat them outright, right? So it's like, okay, fine. I see why someone would be on Memphis, but even if a team has been covering, I know the saying like good teams win, great teams cover. This is still a Memphis team that is so beaten and bruised, and they're on a back-to-back here after a loss against Cleveland. Like, it really just does not seem like a good spot for me. Golden State, as bad and kind of untrustworthy as they've been all year long, they've covered in 75% of their games that they have a rest advantage in. So you throw in the on the road 61%, you throw in the 75% with rest advantage. I can't help but look at Golden State in this spot. But again, you know, numbers speak for themselves to some degree as well. Memphis has a track record of covering. Let's see if we can actually pull it up so I can give you the real number. They've covered in 7 of their last 10, obviously not a million in a row, and in 6 straight games. All as underdogs, but no kidding, right? Who are they going to be favorites against? In terms of the total, I'll lean towards the under. Maybe this is where I see Memphis kind of kicking in and contributing to this game. In back-to-back situations here, they've covered the over, so hit the over and get this, just 12.5% of games. Literally 87.5% of games have cashed the under when they are on back-to-backs. Crazy. And you know they're going to play with somewhat of a slow pace, bottom 7-ish team in the league in terms of pace. And Golden State can push the tempo, but I don't see them needing to do it here. So I'll also lean towards the under. A player prop I like in this spot, and I cannot believe these words about to come out of my mouth. Draymond Green to hit 1-3. Odds are fine, minus 120. I think that we're going to get this to around minus 125-ish maybe throughout the day. Maybe I'm wrong there and kind of predicting the line, but this is there's one spot that Draymond will catch and shoot from, the left corner, and now we're getting too granular, and that is a spot in which Memphis really does struggle to cover. So do we pull the trigger on that? Man, oh man, would that be crazy in a psycho pick. But just to hit 1-3, I don't necessarily mind it. He did hit this, earlier in January when they played. That was, I think it was mid-January. He hit 1-3 on 1 attempt. His last 2 games, though, he's had 4 attempts from deep. So yeah, if Draymond can shoot, 25% and shoot 4 times, we might be looking at something here. But it is crazy to bet a Draymond 3 prop. I'm well aware of that. All right, we got Minnesota taking on Orlando here. I like Minnesota minus the points. This Orlando team, yes, they have a lot of young guys, and they've had some impressive wins this year, but not really as of late. They've covered more games than they've won, so I give them credit to that. They're one of the best against the spread teams in the entire league, so I give them that credit. I think they may have just taken Oklahoma City over, right? So a week ago or so maybe they're, at this time of recording, they're the best team against the spread in the league. But I don't really see it today. On the road here, they're good, but Minnesota's good at home, right? So that kind of counteracts. Last time they played, Minnesota kind of showed, yeah, we're the better team. They won 113-92. They were only 5-point favorites too. So I'm going to assume that the matchup kind of stays the same. No major injuries on either side. Give me Minnesota here minus the 7.5 points. Total at 212. I've seen 211.5 on some sports books as well, which is like, how low can you go? Can you go down low? It's super low, but I'm going to lean slightly towards the over just because I do think that, like, to that number, it's not something I'm considering for the under. Even though Minnesota's defense has been holding opponents to, I believe it's like 105 on the season, and then in the last 5 games, that looks pretty good too. I think they're holding opponents to 101. And then when they're at home this year, they're holding opponents to 103. So that, if they go and hold Orlando to under 100, then yeah, this gets kaplunked. But I don't mind looking at the over here because this could be a game in which we see, like, even the last time they played, right? Like, it was 113-92. If Orlando just shows up a little bit more, that's an over. So I'm going to lean towards the over. No major player props I like in the spot. I considered Paolo Banchero's unders, but He's such a good player with a lot of usage. He has had a long struggle against Minnesota here in 2 games, but it's what I considered. I don't think I make it a final play. OKC taking on Charlotte. I like OKC in this spot. Yes, that spread is massive, but like I just said, this is the second best or best. We have to fact check that afterwards. Best team or second best team against the spread in the league. I don't think they covered against Denver. I know they opened at like 3.5, but by games, closing lines, I think it was 6. So they won against Denver, but end up not covering. But nonetheless, still, this is a team that they should be able to put in some work against the Charlotte team. Charlotte team has lost and not covered in 5 straight games, including a game against Utah in which they're 10-point dogs. They lose that game by 12. OKC better than Utah, match up really well, so I'm going to lean towards OKC. I think, maybe I'm crazy for saying this, my favorite spot in this game is going to be the under 228. Like I keep telling you guys, when these games that OKC huge favorites in, and if they go and do their job, it usually ends up being a game that's a blowout in a sense, and we see like a 120 to 97 game or something like that, which that's a lot of points on OKC's side, but not on the Charlotte side of things. The one thing that could concern me is, does Charlotte have up-tempo game like we saw them do against San Antonio, Minnesota, Utah as of late, where they score 120? Hopefully not. I don't see that I don't envision that happening. So I'm going to lean towards the under in this spot. You think of Charlotte as this fast-paced team because they're young, but they're really, in their last 10 games, bottom 5 team in terms of pace of play. And even OKC dropping to the bottom half of the league. They're ranked 17th right now. So this should be a low-ish paced game when you think about it. So give me the under 228. Player props I struggled with in this spot because of the potential blowout. So nothing really jumping off the page from a player prop perspective to me here. Spurs taking on the Pelicans here. Spurs 8-point dogs at home. Total sitting at 234.5. Immediately, I don't mind looking at the under here. I think this game finishes right around the late 220s, mid 220s to late 220s. So I like the under there. In terms of a spread perspective, I think you got to look at New Orleans. Even though San Antonio has been covering a decent amount of games, it hasn't been anything consistent. And this is a New Orleans team that's coming off of a good win against Houston. They're still on the road. The one thing you could say is, well, this is their last road game before going home for one game, and then they pack up and go to LA. So maybe they have some weird scheduling going on, but nonetheless, I still don't mind this spot. They've smoked the Spurs both times they've played them this year. 121 to 106 in early December, then mid-December, a couple weeks later, they win 146 to 110. No reason why that shouldn't continue there. Zion's a no-go, or Zion is questionable. Maybe he does end up playing, but even if he doesn't, I still don't mind the Pelicans in this spot. Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins both also questionable here for San Antonio. If they don't play, I like my player prop that I'm gonna tell you guys right now even more. Devin Vassell over 19.5 points, minus 145 over on FanDuel right now. His normal line's 20.5, so I don't mind that, but minus 145 for 19.5 over on FanDuel. DraftKings has 19.5 at minus 175, and get this, Caesars minus 240. So there's crazy value on being able to snipe this on FanDuel at minus 145. So I like that spot. He's hit this in 7 of his last 10. He's gone 25, 24, 26 in his last 3 here. He loves the mid-range shot, to some degree, shooting it a few times per game, leads the Spurs in mid-range shots in his last 10 games, and that's a really big spot the Pelicans lack defensively. So we even saw Fred VanVleet, come off screens, get to that mid-range and pop it and make a few of those. So yeah, give me Devin Vassell over 19.5 points. That definitely has a strong chance of being a final play, if not just because of the expected value of the odds we're getting. All right, guys, before we get into the last game, go ahead and comment 28-8 if you made it this far into the video. Big NBA slate means long video. I know a lot of you guys like the long videos. My voice starts to get sore and tired, but nonetheless, hey, we're grinding for it. We're loving it, so appreciate everyone's support. Go ahead and comment 28 if you are hearing this. This game, kind of, I guess, a dud to end on. I'm going to look at Denver. They're at home here. They've covered 2 straight games, even though they lost to OKC. But even that loss to OKC kind of tells me, all right, well, now they're going to get fired up and try and win this game. And they're going up against Portland, who has beat Philly, beat Milwaukee. I don't think that they go win against Philly, win against Milwaukee, and then beat Denver, right? This is such a letdown spot for them. I think that they play, if I'm not mistaken, in a couple nights as well. So it's I don't really see them being able to even win one of these games against Denver. So it's a lot of points. I don't know if we make it a final play, but give me the Denver minus the 11.5 points total at 221. I guess, and I like I say, I'm kind of guessing here. I guess I lean towards the under because you have a Blazers team that offensively you can't really trust. You don't really even know what you're getting, but you do have a very consistent Denver defense and offense. So if they control the pace of the game in this spot, I don't mind it. So I'll lean towards the under there as well. Because of the blowout potential, stayed away from player props in this spot. I could consider Malcolm Brogdon over 19.5 points plus rebounds. He's hit that in 8 straight games. A couple times he's landed on 20, so I get it. It's not like Denver against the guard position makes it easy, so it's not the best matchup, but trends-wise, Brogdon has been hitting that. But I don't think many player props make its way from this game into our final plays. But guys, it's going to wrap for today's show. Hopefully you guys do enjoy these videos. If you do, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Cruising towards 54,000 subscribers pretty soon, which is absurd. I feel like we just hit 50, but you know, you guys have been absolutely electric. Appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next video. All right, peace out.